Hello and welcome to the 100 Acre Wool Knitting Podcast. My name is Bella and this is a podcast where I come to you and talk with you about all things knitting or sewing or hand spinning or fiber arts related. I am a knitwear designer and lover of all things fiber and making and things of that sort, based in Northern California in the United States. And it's been a while since we've been on here, but I'm so excited to be back. Things were really busy, hectic with the holidays, so needed to take a bit of a step back for that. But I have a lot of things to share with you, lots of things I've been working on, and it is also release day for a new pattern. Happy release day for the Velvet Moss Vest. I will talk about this a little bit more in a second, but it is what I'm wearing today. So I'm really excited about that pattern is finally now out into the world and available to you all. I will also have it linked down below in the description. But let's just dive into things. I have a sewing finished object that I'm very excited to share with you. And let's see, also a giveaway announcement, or the winner of the giveaway. I will announce that at the end of the video. And some works in progress for knitting, things like that. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. I'll tell you about my skirt finished object first. So this is going to be a little bit difficult to hold up here on the podcast, but I will also be inserting photos and videos of that nature. But I finished my wrap skirt. I have been posting a lot about this on my Instagram stories. If you haven't seen that, make sure to check out my Instagram link down below. But this project was my first ever self-drafted sewing project. I don't want to call it pattern because I'm not making it into an actual pattern or anything like that. This is just for my use, but I'm so happy with it. It's going to be impossible to get it all here in the frame, but I'm really delighted with how it came out. It is definitely not perfect, but for it being completely my own making from start to finish, from making the pattern pieces themselves to creating a muslin to make sure it was going to fit and have the kind of flowiness that I wanted, and things of that nature. I'm getting ahead of myself. I should go back to the beginning. Okay, so where this idea came from, I found an image of a skirt online, and I just fell in love with the silhouette. I didn't know where I could get it, and I also wanted one of my own, so I was like, well, I might as well just make it because it seemed like a pretty simple, relatively simple kind of a construction that I could figure it out on my own with my own measurements. So that took me down a rabbit hole. This all started about a year ago, and I was looking for the right fabric that I was envisioning for this skirt. I really wanted this particular one to be a very wintry skirt, so I wanted a quite heavyweight fabric. This is linen and also a gingham because I love gingham and I needed some gingham in my wardrobe finally. I've been using it for home decor things, but I really wanted exactly this kind of a fabric in my wardrobe. So purchased that, and it was sitting around for about a year. I had just had the fabric in my stash, and I looked back at when I actually got the fabric. It's been like a year. So anyway, I finally got up the nerve this past December or so. I forget when exactly I began working on this, really began like sewing it and things, probably November or December of 2024. So then I was going through the process of actually creating the muslin, creating the pattern pieces themselves. I'll probably insert some photos in here as well of what those looked like, and I had to make a couple tweaks on those things. And I also really wanted, something I noticed in the photo was that the inside of the skirt had this kind of hem. I don't even know what it's called. Is it called a facing, perhaps? Like a skirt hem facing. This other piece of fabric that is sewn onto the underside. So this is the right side hem of the fabric, and then on the wrong side there's this bigger, wider piece of fabric that's also sewn in. And I figured it would add nice drape. It would add some weight to the bottom to enhance the drape of the entire skirt. And also I just thought it would be a fun little pop, like when you're twirling and you kind of see the light white peek through. I thought that would be cute. Just something I also saw in the photo. So, and then also the ties, because it's a wrap skirt. So that was another thing that I was really thinking, okay, I can tackle this myself, because it is actually just one flat piece. There's no zipper, there's no buttons. So I figured it would be relatively doable. So let me grab the muslin here real quick. So this was my muslin, and what I determined from this, I didn't add the waistband or any sort of finishing. I did add some little scrap ribbons so that I could try it on and make sure that I knew how long I wanted the ties to be, but yeah, didn't do any finishing on the muslin at all. I just wanted to see the length of the skirt and how it was all draping, and the circumference of the bottom, kind of if it was flowy enough to what I wanted it to be. So that was the purpose of the muslin for me. And yeah, I made some adjustments, and then I got started on my real fabric. This fabric is from Merchant & Mills. I did not purchase it directly from Merchant & Mills because when I bought it, Merchant & Mills, their website was out of stock. So I got it from a different website. I know I've talked about it here on the podcast. When I bought this fabric, I showed you all like a year ago. I'll try to find the link. It may be completely gone now though. It probably is. But anyway, I really love this fabric. So if you find a Merchant & Mills linen that you like either the color of, or the if it's got a patterning to it, this I believe was a slightly over a 5 ounce per meter. I think that's the weight of the fabric. So it's actually quite a heavy fabric, quite a heavy weight fabric. I wasn't anticipating that when I purchased it, but I really love it. It makes a really nice winter skirt. It's very hefty and heavy duty and got some weight to it for sure. This is not a summer skirt. So, but that's what I wanted, for it to be a wintry kind of skirt, and I could just wear some leggings underneath and it would be fine. So I'm just really, really happy with how this came out. So let me see if I can show you some of the details. So basically the construction, if I can try to explain it as simply as possible, it is essentially 7 triangles where I took my waist measurement and added a bit of ease to the entire circumference of my waist, and then split that into 6, and then you add a 7th because it's a wrap skirt and you want the front panel to be doubled over, overlapped, so that you don't have like a gap that would be inappropriate. So that's the purpose of 7 panels, although you only split your waist circumference into 6 sections, and then you make that essentially, I'm trying to explain this very simply, but essentially the top width of each of these panels, perhaps you can see the very top width is that measurement, your waist measurement divided by 6, and then I just went down. The length is how long I wanted the skirt, and then the bottom width was kind of a 1/6 of the bottom hem circumference that I was going for. So when I did the first muslin, this was a smaller bottom circumference than I had actually wanted, so I ended up making it larger when I did the final piece. Here, you can probably see that you can see the stitching lines better on the muslin. So yeah, from here to here is basically a 1/6 of my waist plus some ease, and then as you go down, it's kind of like a triangle-ish shape. And then the circumference was a little bit too small on that one, so I made it bigger for this one, and just cut out all my fabric. It didn't take a crazy amount of time to actually make it, so I'm really happy with how it came out. I will definitely be doing this again. I still have the pattern, of course. It's only, the pattern is just one pattern piece for the 7 sections. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself again. 2 of the sections, the ones on the edges, since you have to have the this little finishing so it's not a raw edge, because you have your finishing here at the edge. The two on the end, the two panels on the end have to be a little bit longer. This is too much to explain, isn't it? Anyway, I'm just getting nerdy with it. I had a lot of fun. If you're a sewer, try a wrap skirt. I think you could do it. You just take your waist measurement and do what I said before, and then figure out how long you want the skirt and what the bottom circumference you would want to be so that it's nice and flowy. Maybe I can even put my measurements down below, or the measurements that I used for the pieces. Anywho, it was a lot of fun, and I'm gonna stop going on and on and on about this one, but I will most certainly be sewing another in the future because it was very doable and yeah, a lot of fun. Oh yeah, one kind of regret that I had, I'm really happy overall with how the bottom hem, this thing here, facing maybe, I'm really happy overall with how it came out. There was a lot of ironing and pressing and steaming involved in this to make everything as clean as I could make it. But one thing I'm kind of regretting is using a dark thread when I did this stitching. So I used a dark thread on the top and bottom, on the bobbin and also on the top thread. So on this side you can't really see the line because it's the same, the thread is the same color as the fabric here, essentially, the gingham. However, I used the same yarn, or not yarn, I talk about knitting too much. No, I don't. I used the same thread color on the white as well. So, and now I'm realizing I could have used a different color top thread than bobbin thread so that the white could be on the white and the black could be on the gingham. So that's one little thing I guess I could have changed. I can do that in the future. It's not a big deal in this case because it's still on the underside. You'll rarely see this, if ever. So it's really just a thing that I'm gonna know about. And then yes, I also did some finishing on, I'll show you the finishing on the inside. So I just did some serging. I just took my serger with some black thread and just finished off everywhere that there was a seam. Oh yeah, and here, this bit here actually, there is an extra seam down the center of this piece, of this panel, because I somehow miscalculated how much fabric I would need, and I didn't have quite enough fabric to do 7 full single piece sections of the little triangle things I was telling you about, the 7 sections of the wrap skirt. So one of them I had to basically put 2 pieces and sandwich them and sew them down the center, and I tried to match up the gingham as best I could. I think I also have a video that I can insert here of when I did that, but is this it? Okay, so there's a seam right here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's joining it's joining 2 pieces of the gingham fabric, and I just tried to match up the gingham as best I could to make the most of my fabric. So now I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't buy more fabric because the fabric is not cheap. I mean, it's a really nice heavyweight linen, and if I would have had to have purchased an entire other yard just to get that 7th panel on there. So we make do with what we have, right? There we go. So it all worked out in the end, and I'm really happy with it. And that brings us to the sponsor of today's video. This video is sponsored by Craftsy. Craftsy is an online creative community full of like-minded makers where you can find over 2,000 inspiring classes taught by industry experts, walking you step by step through all of the instructions. You can learn things like knitting, sewing, crochet, and so much more. While working on my first ever self-drafted sewing pattern this month, I've really been enjoying taking some of their sewing classes, like the Swing Skirt Techniques and Construction class by Natalie Channon, which helped me in the drafting process while I was creating my own skirt. And also I've really been enjoying diving into the class Genius by Kenneth D. King, as he walks through exactly how to copy your own favorite perfect fit pair of jeans that you already own. I just think it's a super cool idea, and I've really been enjoying learning from him. So I'm really excited to use some of those techniques when I start sewing my first ever pair of jeans. Craftsy is my go-to online resource for all creative things, whether I'm looking to further develop my skills in knitting or sewing, or if I'm looking for inspiration in any kind of creative topic. So if you are a creative or like-minded crafting enthusiast like myself, then I highly recommend checking out Craftsy. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the video description below will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. That is a huge discount compared to the normal price of $123 a year. So thank you again so much to Craftsy for sponsoring this video. Okay, let's get on to some knitting now, some knitting works in progress. Or perhaps I'll tell you about the vest. So today is release day for the Velvet Moss vest, which is what I'm wearing right now. And I am really happy and excited that it's finally out into the world. The test knitters, all the test knitters versions also look so cool. So this is a vest that is actually worked sideways. You cast on and then you're working, your rows are like this, all the way across. It's a herringbone stitch, and it's also the unique thing about it is that it's a herringbone stitch, although instead of using one color throughout and just having the herringbone be a texture, it is also color differences. So you're using two colors throughout the entire thing, but it is technically mosaic knitting because you're only holding one of the colors at a time in any row. So it's a lot of fun to actually work, and it's charted and written row by row, the instructions for how to do all of the herringbone and everything like that. It becomes really meditative once you get into it. And I've also created a tutorial video that is linked in the pattern, walking you through step by step exactly how to do the herringbone stitch, kind of walking you, side by side with the written instructions and also the chart, just so you can get a full idea of how it's worked and what it should be looking like as you're knitting it. And then also the increases, because since we're working up and down, then there's increases and decreases throughout. So all of that, that video and everything is in the pattern. And yeah, it's got two colors, like I said. So the main color you can see on the edgings. Let's see, will it focus? Here, and then on the hemline as well. Maybe I can get that in the shot. So that's the main color. And for this sample, I actually used 2 strands of yarn for the main color. So it's actually 1 strand of an unspun yarn and then also a silk mohair. So I just held those together throughout the entire thing as my main color. So don't treat that as 2 different yarns. I was just holding 2 together as one for the main color. And then for the contrast color, I used one of my own hand spun yarns. And I'm really happy with kind of the subtle shifts in color as it goes along, and how the shifts are vertical instead of like normally horizontal when you're working up and down. Maybe you can see the back. Hopefully it's showing up there. So I'm just really happy with how it turned out. I think it came out really elegant, very elegantly. And I'm definitely going to be making another at some point. I'm really busy with a bunch of other projects going on right now, but I definitely want to cast on another one in a different colorway. I was thinking maybe like a cream palette, kind of light colors and a little bit low contrast, something like that. We'll see. Some of my test knitters had really fun colorways, really bright fuchsias and very colorful, and golds, and I love how it turned out. So make sure to check out the test knitters versions on the Ravelry page as well. Theirs will all be linked there in the project pages. So yeah, I'm so happy it's finally out into the world. So I will have it linked down below. It'll be on my Etsy store and it is on my Etsy store and Ravelry store. Okay, works in progress. So I am also working on another new design. This is my Amaryllis Blouse. I have made one for my mom. If you are not a new viewer here, then you will probably have seen this in a different video. I'm making one for myself now, and kind of another version, another sample. However, this one I'm using a completely different yarn. I realized that the yarn that I used for my mom's was La Bien-Aimée Kumo, I believe is the name of the base. It's their Surrey alpaca and mohair lace weight yarn from La Bien-Aimée. But I found that it was actually quite difficult to get in the US. Not many places sell it online. And I don't know, the color selection wasn't, I don't know. Anyway, I just changed my mind as to what yarn I wanted to kind of suggest for the pattern. La Bien-Aimée Kumo, their Kumo is beautiful. It's totally beautiful, but I was personally having troubles, you know, obtaining the same yarn for my own sample because I wanted to knit one for myself and as a second sample. And I was having trouble obtaining it myself, looking at all these websites, trying to find the right color that I was going for, and it just wasn't working out. So I figured I would use a different yarn, one that I actually already had in my stash, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. It's going to be a really lovely mauve, kind of light tone. I think it'll be great for spring. So this is what it's looking like so far. It is a top-down, all-over brioche blouse, and you can't really see it super well right now. Maybe I'll insert a picture of my mom's version that I've already finished. But this scallopy bit is the neckline. So, and it's also super squished on my needles, so that makes it harder to show you. But the scallops are going to be along the neckline about here, and it's a little bit of a wider neckline so that I think it's really pretty along the décolleté area at the top. And yes, it is all over brioche, like I said. Pretty simple. Most of the time it is pretty simple brioche. It's really fun doing the scallops here at the beginning because you cast on at the top and then you're working down. It's also a raglan style construction, so there's a bit of increases here and here, and then it'll be brioche all the rest of the way. If you've seen it, you've already seen it. But yes, I am coming back to this one and starting to write the pattern for it. Yeah, having a lot of fun with this. So the yarn that I'm using for this sample now is Bernice by Durum Natura. And the colorway here is Hot Chocolate. I honestly don't know why it's called Hot Chocolate. This really looks mauve to me, but there we go. And the makeup of this is 55% kid mohair, 25% silk, and 20% wool. I thought that was a really unique kind of a makeup for a silk mohair. Most of the time it's just silk and mohair, but since it has that wool in there too, I thought it would be more substantial for a garment where it's only one strand. This entire garment is only one strand of this sort of lace weight mohair. But with that wool, it does make it a little bit more lofty and more substantive. This strand is not as thin as a normal silk mohair, I would say. So yeah, I'm really having fun with that one. I love the color, I love how it's going, and that pattern will be coming pretty soon as a test knit. Not immediately, but that's what I'm focusing on right now, pattern writing wise. And I have also been working more on my partner's sweater. This is and was and is going to be his Christmas present. Wow, I am so late. And I'm behind as well. But there were some snafus, which we have since talked about, and I'm gonna fix it. But for right now, it's not exactly how he wanted it to be. So there's gonna be some ripping and things of that sort, but it's all gonna work out in the end. So this is what it's looking like for him right now. It's a turtleneck. It's got a fun sort of textured portion up here at the top, and then it starts going into just stockinette after a bit of fun play here at the top. But how I was thinking I was gonna do the construction for this did not end up working out how I wanted it to, and also how my partner wanted it to. So instead, so basically what I was doing was increasing in a weird way that I haven't seen before, and therefore I didn't really know how to do all the math of the grading and make sure all the sizing came out correctly. And it's just not what it needed to be and what it needs to be. So I'm going to rip out quite a bit, and I'm going to do instead more of a set-in sleeve kind of a construction. So I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do for the actual pattern, because this is going to be, I am planning on making this into a pattern at some point this year, a knitting pattern at some point this year. But I'm not sure about the construction yet. With this kind of increasing here at the top portion, since the increases are down the center and on the shoulders, it's not like a normal raglan where they're here and here. It's the increases are here and here and here and on the back. So I'm trying to figure out how to combine, basically how to go from the top portion to the rest of the body and sleeves. So that is the challenge right now. But I think I had my partner and I had a whole brainstorming session. We were drawing things and trying to figure it out. I think we're on the right track now, but I just need to rip it out and start doing it. So that's where that one's at. A lot of work did actually get done on it, but it's gonna have to be ripped out. So anyway, things happen sometimes. That's okay. I would rather it be, I would rather we have figured out now while I just split for the sleeves on that. So I would have rather us, figured it out that early instead of me finishing the whole thing and then having to rip things out. So that's okay. Another thing I'm working on is anytime that I just need something easy to pick up and do, I am knitting on another Amoretta blouse. The Amoretta blouse is one of my patterns, and it's just a really simple, sweet little tee blouse sort of a thing with a nice neckline. So this is going to be for me. I just had this yarn in my stash, and I figured why not make a good kind of spring, summer ready kind of a blouse like this that I could wear with a lot of things. Sorry it's wrinkled right now, but I had an issue with not stranding, but basically when I ended one ball of yarn and started a new one, you could really see a demarcation line of it was not quite the same cream color. So I had to rip back quite a bit and go on it again. But so I've alternated skeins to mitigate that. I alternated skeins when I added in the second ball, and maybe you can see the alterations, or maybe you can see the altering in the rows. I'm not sure if it'll come up on camera or not. In person, I really cannot tell. And also I think once I block it and everything, I think it's going to be as seamless as it can be. Because this is a natural yarn, and I had to purchase more much later than when I got the first skein. So anyway, differences will happen. But alternating skeins is a good way to mitigate that. If you do notice that your yarn, you have two skeins that are two different colors almost, or two different, slightly different shades, in order to not get that stark line of one to the other, then just kind of blend them in. Do one row of one row of another, maybe 2 rows of the other, 2 rows, 1 row, and just kind of fade it out. So that's what I did sort of randomly on that one. Just on the stockinette now, and that's been a lot of fun. And I am also working on another pair of my Calm Down socks. This is a pattern that is gonna be in testing soon. I know, I have the holidays things got away when I was, just taking a break for the holidays Wasn't really working on much pattern writing or anything of that sort. But anyway, I am working on my second pair of Calm Down socks. The original pair I gifted to my grandma. She is so happy with them. She loved them and fell in love, so I wanted to give them to her. I thought they would be nice for her to keep her feet warm. So this is going to be the new sample. I am using still 1 strand of Nutiden unspun yarn. That's what I used for the original one. I'm just using a different colorway. So this one I believe is a colorway from 2 years ago. Languster, I think it's called. It's kind of pink and purple and yellow. I wonder if it will come up on camera, but it's a really sweet little muted color with some kind of interest to it. So those are my Calm Down socks. Again, just something I kind of pick up whenever. I am knitting 2 at a time on this one. So as you can see, I have both sock cuffs on my needles. The socks are worked top down, so you can see the cuffs there at the top, and I'm working down. So I started these individually. I started them each on not magic loop. I started them each on 9-inch circulars. And then once I had about 1 inch on each of them, I wanted to make sure that my gauge was going to be consistent between the 2 socks and also the row count of the cuff, because the cuff is quite long on the Calm Down socks. It makes them really like leg warmery kind of socks. They kind of get bunched up and they're really cozy and comfy. So I wanted to make sure that they were going to be the same on both. So that's the reason that I chose to do 2 at a time. So as you can see, I have 2 strands of yarn coming off. So I'm knitting them individually, just at the same time on the same magic loop needle. So I just have a really long cable right now attached to my needles. So basically what I do is when I'm working on one, I will push in one needle, pull out the other, and then I'll knit across this sock, and then I'll drop that yarn, and then I'll pick up this yarn for this sock and then knit across that sock, and then turn the entire thing around and do the other side. And then that's 1 row for both of them when I do 1, 2 on one side and then 1, 2 on the other side. And it's working out well for me. I thought it was going to be more fiddly than it's actually turning out to be. This is my first time I've ever done 2 at a time socks, so I really recommend it, especially if your sock is relatively simple, like the knit stitches, or the stitches are relatively simple to do. Then yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And that way you know that both of your socks are going to be the same size, the same gauge, the same row count. Because I don't know, at least with me, I wonder how it is for you. At least with me, when I'm knitting socks, they always somehow end up being slightly different from each other. It's like I cannot get my gauge exactly correct or exactly the same between the 2, even if I knit one right after the other. So anyway, I thought doing this method 2 at a time would help that. So I think that's all my works in progress for now. And let's get into the giveaway winner. Last time in my 25K subscriber celebration video, last video here on the podcast, I let you all know that I was doing a giveaway of some of my hand spun yarn, and this is what it looks like. So a lot of you commented and let me know what your favorite pattern is overall that you've ever worked on, and that was so cool to see. Thank you all for commenting and letting me know. So I've randomly chosen a giveaway winner for it, and the giveaway winner for the handspun yarn is CAZS5474. So if you're watching, please let me know your information. You can either message me on Instagram if you have Instagram, or perhaps a comment down below, somehow that I can get in touch with you to get this out to you. So thank you so much to you all for being here. And I think that is everything for today's video. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed. And don't forget to check out the Velvet Moss Vest knitting pattern below if you would like to knit that one. And I'll see you in the next video. Happy knitting. I'll see you next time. Bye.